Have you spent any time lately remembering? A few weeks ago, in preparation for a sermon, I took a walk down to the river. You may wonder why. Well, because there's a story about when God asked the Israelites to remember what they have been through, to remember the crossing that He provided for them by stones, taking stones out of the river and setting them up as an altar, as a remembrance. So while I stood in that water collecting those rocks, I remembered the times I played there with my family. I remember the Father's Day cookout that Reed and Fatih planned for David one year there. I remember the times we put our kayak in there and went for a ride, or we came back and took our kayak out there. I remember when our dogs ran and played and swam there. I remember the love and the joy that I have known there. And I remember the bluebells on the way to getting there. And this week I have spent more time remembering, much more. Deuteronomy 8:2 in the Amplified Translation says this: "And you shall remember always all the ways which the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, so that He might humble and test you, to know what was in your heart and in your mind, whether you could keep His commandments or not." Remembering is important. It's significant. It's helpful. It's insightful and encouraging. We are reminded that we are to remember. Memories are teachable moments for us, remembering those moments that God teaches us. We're encouraged to always remember everything. God doesn't want us to forget a thing. All the things those 40 years in the wilderness brought them. Can you imagine all that they had experienced? The desert, the hot, the dry, the barren. I know that this week. The lack of food, the foot trouble they must have had of walking so long. Where do you shop? Where do you get clothes? All the wandering. The Message says Deuteronomy 8:2 this way: "Remember every road that God led you on for those 40 years in the wilderness, pushing your limits and testing you so that He would know what you were made of, whether you could keep His commandments or not." In the midst, God seems to have been pushing, right? And in our lives, God may be pushing our limits, trying to humble us, sending hardships to test us. God used this season in the wilderness and all that they had experienced for a purpose. It says to know what was in your heart and in your mind, to know what you were made of, to know what you intended to do. God doesn't want us to forget the opportunities we've had to learn, to grow, to stretch. The good news says Deuteronomy 8:2 this way: "Remember how the Lord your God led you on this long journey through the desert these past 40 years, sending hardships to test you so that He might know what you intended to do and whether you would be able to obey His commandments." I love that God was taking us on a journey, a long journey, in order to teach us, to test us, to mature us, to fill our hearts and not forgetting a thing. He wants us to remember. So there is so much we need to remember in this season, in our seasons in the desert. Honest, truth, justice for all, how to live in peace, respect for all God's kids, authentic history, value, integrity, love, compassion. Remembering is important so that our intentions can live there and thrive. We become all we were designed to be. Our hearts can be full of love, love that Jesus commands us to live. May I encourage you to make space to pause, to remember. Remember where you have walked and what you have learned. And maybe collect a few rocks to hold, to mark your memories, and never forget. And hey, what about telling others all God has done on your journey? Pray with me. Gracious God, we are so thankful that you encourage us to remember everything along the journey, the fun, the difficult, the family, the joys, the sorrows, the hunger pains, the warm desert days. May we just move through our journey, attentive to what you have in mind for us, attentive to what you're trying to teach us, attentive to what is all around us, so that you may do your work in us, and we might allow that to be. So in the midst of the journey we're on today, open our eyes that we might see, that we might feel, that we might know, and that we might trust in you to walk with us every step of the way. Amen. Kathy, now I invite you to help us with the breath practice that might teach us, just be that space where we might remember. Thanks, my friend.
Good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. And for our breathing practice today, we're going to use an inhale through our nose, the nostrils, and exhale through an open mouth. And I also want you to think about anyone who might need your protection today, whether it is a person or a place because of severe weather. And so I'm particularly thinking of those in the path of Hurricane Erin, which is barreling, I guess, towards Puerto Rico. So as we inhale, come through your nose, but 3 distinct stages. So it might sound like this. Exhale with 1 big breath. So we'll do 5 of those together. Just allow your breathing to return to normal. See if you feel that your head has been cleared a little. And then remember the concept of protection for all those who need it. Thanks for breathing with me.